The takeover, the Caitlin Clark takeover continues as Caitlin Clark has incredible news ahead of the start of this WNBA season. And we also have to get into Sophie Cunningham not being protected by the Indiana Fever in this fantasy draft. Welcome to keep the
what it means to just put one foot in front of the other, to persevere, to welcome people into the fold, to not give in to circumstance, to lead with grace and dignity, to sacrifice for a greater good and a common good.
Something felt off the second the whispers began. Because when your franchise star suddenly finds herself at the center of quiet tension right before a season tips off, it stops being just basketball. It becomes about power, money, and ego. And right now, all of it seems to be circling around Caitlin Clark like a pressure cooker ready to burst with one wrong move. Here's the part no one's saying out loud. If everything in Indiana is truly fine, then why does it already feel like the chess pieces are shifting before the first game even begins?
It was all good just a week ago. Maybe 3 weeks ago, right? WNBA offseason slowly winding down as we're getting into FIBA basketball. Anticipation's building up. We're about to see Caitlin Clark touch the floor again. It's been 8, nearly 9 months since we've seen her hoop. She comes out game 1 against Senegal. Bang, double, 17 points, 12 assists. Game 2 rolls around, and then we think to ourselves, man, we didn't miss this. And what is this? Stephanie White. Caitlin Clark.
The rumor about Sophie Cunningham possibly being on her way out didn't just appear out of thin air. It wasn't sparked by bored fans looking for drama. It grew from a deeper feeling that the Fever are actively reshaping their identity around Caitlin Clark. And that shift could leave some familiar faces on the outside looking in.
I'm going to break down why the Fever may not protect Sophie Cunningham when it comes to expansion draft. Number one, Sophie Cunningham is not under contract, so even if they protect her, they may lose her anyway. So protecting her is for what? You know what I'm saying? So you'll waste a protection. Number two, protect the players who are under contract. So the players under contract is KK, Michaela Timpson. I have to say that because some fans don't know what KK is. Come on now. KK is her nickname.
And when that kind of reshaping begins, it usually points to one thing. Someone inside the organization has decided the current formula just isn't good enough. But that opens up a bigger, more uncomfortable question. If the formula is broken, then why is Stephanie White still the one holding the clipboard?
It's getting real. It's getting real for you very, very fast. And I can't even lie, you did this to yourself. You did this to yourself. Stephanie White under major fire. It is a microscope on you. The Indiana Fever have put Stephanie White on alert. They are watching you like a hawk. And if you make any missteps, in regards to Caitlin Clark in this franchise situation, you are about to be out of the door.
Because that's where things start to get complicated and honestly a little suspicious. There's been a quiet but persistent frustration among fans who watched what unfolded on the international stage, especially during the FIBA Women's Olympic qualifying tournament Puerto Rico. What was supposed to be a showcase ended up feeling more like a social experiment gone wrong.
Caitlin Clark playing off ball. Man, that smells like Stephanie White. Caitlin Clark playing the small forward. And that reeks like Stephanie White. Wait, why is Caitlin Clark the 4 in this lineup? Definitely seems like Stephanie White. Wait, why are we not pushing the pace when Caitlin Clark's in the game? That is very reminiscent of Stephanie White. Stephanie White! We didn't miss you, Stephanie. We missed Caitlin Clark. And then we get news from Scott Agnes following FIBA basketball. Scott. Fever fans. Stephanie White, Tamika Catching, Debbie Antonelli are serving as ESPN game analysts for the women's basketball tournament.
Instead of allowing Caitlin Clark to do the one thing that made her a generational talent, control the game as a true floor general, she was shifted into an off-ball role that looked completely unnatural. And not just unnatural, but almost intentional. This wasn't a player adjusting to a system. It felt like the system was bending in a way that reduced her impact. The ball wasn't in her hands. The tempo wasn't hers to dictate. Possessions played out with Clark parked on the perimeter, watching, waiting, and at times completely iced out by teammates who seemed more focused on running their own sets than maximizing the most dangerous offensive weapon on the floor. Fans noticed. Some argue it was about balance, making sure veteran players kept their roles and hierarchy intact. Others see something more political, an old guard protecting its space from a new superstar reshaping the entire ecosystem of the sport. Either way, the conversation keeps circling back to Stephanie White, and not in a flattering light.
Truly saying something when your counterpart is feeling bad for us because of how we're getting treated. I mean, come on. And that's from leadership. That's from, I'll just leave it there. From our leadership, it's just bad. When fans and players, especially players, when we're competing at the highest level and it's like a battlefield out there, when we're agreeing on the court because of how awful the officials are, like that's saying something. Like, listen to us. We're not going to come for your heads, but I think there is room for improvement to change the criteria when the whole league is asking for it. But when the leader.
So now the question getting louder is this: why is Stephanie White still leading the Indiana Fever if that same philosophy risks carrying into the season? Because if that approach shows up again in Indiana, it could derail everything before it even begins. And suddenly, Sophie Cunningham isn't just a roster decision anymore. She's a variable. A personality that brings edge, intensity, and unpredictability, the kind that can either ignite a team or create real friction depending on how it's handled. If the Fever are truly building around Caitlin Clark having full control, then every piece has to align with that vision. No exceptions. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a growing belief that Cunningham might not even want that kind of situation. A Supermax deal sounds great on paper, but it comes with pressure, expectations, and sometimes a system that doesn't actually fit your game or your ambitions. So what happens if she doesn't take it? She suddenly has freedom, the ability to walk and choose a situation that fits her better on her own terms.
Caitlin Clark is scheduled to appear on NBC Sunday, March 29th as a special contributor for the network's Basketball Night in America pregame show. She'll provide commentary and analysis alongside Maria Taylor and NBA Hall of Famers Carmelo Anthony, Vince Carter, and T-Mac Tracy McGrady. This will be for the New York Knicks versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Caitlin Clark takeover continues. I mean, why not? We got Stephanie White going and doing NCAA announcements and all types of stuff. She's not even focused on who we protecting.
And just like that, the Indiana Fever re-enter the picture from a completely different angle. Instead of losing Sophie Cunningham outright, there's now a path to bring her back on a far more team-friendly deal. Something in that $625,000 to $650,000 range, similar to what's being floated for Lexi Hall. That kind of structure would give Indiana flexibility while still keeping key pieces around Caitlin Clark. But that only works if everyone is aligned, and right now, alignment feels shaky at best. Because while the front office is focused on contracts, cap space, and long-term strategy, fans are stuck on a much simpler question. Will Clark actually be allowed to play her game? It sounds absurd to even ask that about a player of her caliber, but recent developments have made it impossible to ignore. The fear isn't that Clark will fail, it's that she'll be held back. And nothing frustrates a fan base more than the idea of wasted potential, especially when that potential isn't just about winning games, but about reshaping the entire league. Caitlin Clark isn't just another star. That's why every coaching decision, every rotation, every offensive set is now under a microscope. And inevitably all of it circles back to one name, Stephanie White.